The silence in Elaine O'Connor's office felt heavy, amplified by the steady ticking of the antique grandfather clock in the corner, a sound she'd paid little attention to until today, when time seemed to crawl by with agonizing slowness. She stared at the latest financial report of her tech empire, but her mind kept drifting to the meeting scheduled at her daughter Lily's private school in 30 minutes. Another parent-teacher conference about Lily's adjustment issues. Another reminder that despite her billion-dollar success, Elaine was failing at the one job that truly mattered. "Miss O'Connor, your car is ready," her assistant announced from the doorway of her penthouse office. Elaine nodded, gathering her designer bag. At 36, she had built O'Connor Tech from a small startup into one of the most innovative tech companies in America. What had started as a simple app designed in her college dorm room had evolved into a tech conglomerate that revolutionized how people interacted with their smart homes. Her face had graced the covers of Fortune and Forbes. Her net worth exceeded $3 billion. And yet, her 10-year-old daughter barely spoke to her anymore. The sleek black Bentley glided through Manhattan traffic as Elaine rehearsed what she would say to the teacher. It had been 2 years since David, her ex-husband, had left them for a younger woman. Lily had taken it hard, retreating into herself, and now, after changing schools 3 times, her grades were slipping, and she was having trouble connecting with other children. "We're here, miss." "O'Connor," her driver announced as they pulled up to Westfield Academy, an exclusive private school housed in a stately brick building on the Upper East Side. The moment Elaine stepped into the art classroom, she knew this meeting would be different. Instead of the stern-faced headmistress she'd expected, a man in faded jeans and a simple button-down shirt stood arranging paintings on a drying rack. He turned, and Elaine found herself looking into the warmest brown eyes she'd ever seen. "You must be Lily's mom," he said with a genuine smile, extending his hand. "I'm Daniel James, the new art teacher." His handshake was firm, his palms slightly calloused. He wasn't what Elaine had expected at Westfield, where even the teachers seemed polished to perfection. "Elaine O'Connor," she replied, suddenly conscious of her power suit and the diamond watch that cost more than most teachers' annual salaries. "I understand there's an issue with Lily," Daniel gestured to a student desk where Lily's artwork was displayed. "Actually, I wanted to show you something remarkable." Elaine approached cautiously, preparing herself for another discussion about Lily's withdrawal, her refusal to participate. Instead, she saw a painting that took her breath away, a swirl of vibrant colors depicting a girl standing on a cliff, arms outstretched toward a brilliant sun. "This is Lily's," Elaine asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel nodded, his eyes lighting up. "She's incredibly talented. This was her first project in my class. When I asked the students to paint something that represented freedom, most kids her age draw birds or butterflies. Lily created this." Elaine stared at the painting, noting how the small figure seemed both vulnerable and powerful against the vast landscape. I didn't know she could do this. She's been keeping to herself most days," Daniel explained, "but when she paints, it's like watching someone have a conversation with their own soul." He paused, then added gently, "I didn't call you here because of a problem, Miss O'Connor. I called because I think Lily's found her voice, and I wanted you to see it." The unexpected kindness in his words made Elaine's throat tighten. When was the last time someone had called her with good news about her daughter? "Thank you," she managed, still staring at the painting. "It's just been challenging since the divorce." Daniel nodded, and there was no judgment in his eyes. "I understand. My daughter Mia went through something similar when her mom passed away 4 years ago. She's 11 now, just a year older than Lily. Art helped her through it." Elaine glanced up, noticing for the first time the simple gold band on his right hand moved from the left, she guessed. "I'm sorry for your loss," she said sincerely. "Thank you." He smiled again, that genuine smile that seemed to reach his eyes. "Mia and I have found our way. And I think Lily will too." They talked for nearly an hour about Lily's progress, her artistic talent, and subtle ways Elaine could encourage her daughter's newfound interest. As they wrapped up, Daniel hesitated, then reached for a folder. "I run an art program on Saturdays at the community center in Brooklyn. It's free for the kids. We get grants and donations to keep it going. Lily might enjoy it. Mia helps out sometimes too. Elaine took the brochure, noting the simple design and the photographs of children proudly displaying their artwork. It was worlds away from Lily's usual carefully curated activities with the children of Manhattan's elite. "I'll think about it," she said, tucking it into her bag. As she left, Elaine felt lighter than she had in months. There was something refreshing about Daniel James, with his unpretentious manner and genuine passion for teaching. She found herself looking forward to seeing him again, a realization that caught her by surprise. That evening, over their usual silent dinner in their Central Park West penthouse, Elaine mentioned the art program to Lily. "Your art teacher thinks you might enjoy it," she said carefully, sliding the brochure across the marble dining table. Lily glanced up, her blue eyes so like her father's widening with interest. "Mr. James runs this." "Yes, he said his daughter helps out sometimes." Elaine tried to keep her voice casual, not wanting to seem too eager and scare Lily off. To her surprise, Lily picked up the brochure, examining it closely. "Can I go this Saturday?" Elaine blinked, taken aback by the enthusiasm in her daughter's voice. When was the last time Lily had asked to do anything? "Of course," she said quickly. "I'll take you." Saturday morning found Elaine driving herself, a rare occurrence, to a modest brick building in a gentrifying part of Brooklyn. The community center looked clean but worn, nothing like the gleaming facilities at Westfield Academy. Inside, the art room buzzed with energy as children of various ages worked on projects, their laughter and chatter filling the space. Daniel moved among them, offering guidance and encouragement, dressed in jeans even more faded than the ones he'd worn at school, with specks of paint dotting his rolled-up sleeves. He looked up as they entered, his face brightening. "Lily, Miss O'Connor, I'm so glad you made it." He waved them over to a table where a dark-haired girl was helping a younger child with a clay sculpture. "This is my daughter, Mia." Mia looked up with a smile that mirrored her father's. "Hi, Lily. Want to help me with the clay station today?" To Elaine's astonishment, Lily nodded eagerly and followed Mia without a backward glance. It was the first time she'd seen her daughter willingly approach another child in months. "She'll be fine," Daniel said, noticing Elaine's hesitation. "Mia's good with the younger kids." Elaine nodded, suddenly feeling out of place in her designer jeans and cashmere sweater. "Should I wait or—" "You're welcome to stay," Daniel offered. "Some parents help out, others drop off. It's up to you." Elaine glanced around at the other adults, a mix of staff and parent volunteers, all busy with various tasks. "I could stay," she found herself saying, "if there's something I can do to help." Daniel's surprise was evident, but he recovered quickly. "We always need help at the painting station. Think you can handle some messy watercolors?" That was how Elaine O'Connor, CEO of a billion-dollar tech company, found herself sitting at a low table with 4 children under 8, helping them create watercolor masterpieces while trying to keep paint off her $300 jeans. To her surprise, she enjoyed every minute of it. Across the room, she occasionally caught glimpses of Lily, animated in a way she hadn't been in years as she and Mia helped younger children shape animals from clay. The sight made Elaine's heart ache with a mixture of joy and regret. Why hadn't she found something like this for Lily sooner? "You're a natural," Daniel commented during a quiet moment, setting a cup of coffee beside her. "That little boy, Tim, he hasn't smiled like that in weeks. His family's going through a rough time." Elaine accepted the coffee gratefully. "This is also different from what I'm used to." "Different good or different bad?" "Good," she admitted. "Very good." Daniel leaned against the table, surveying the room with obvious pride. "I started this program after my wife died." Mia was struggling, and nothing seemed to help until she started painting. "I figured other kids might need the same outlet." "How do you fund it?" Elaine asked, her business mind automatically calculating the costs of supplies, space rental, and staff. Daniel shrugged. "Grants mostly. Donations. I put in whatever I can from my teacher's salary, which isn't much." He laughed, the sound warm and self-deprecating. "We make it work, though sometimes it's touch and go." By the time the session ended, Elaine had made a mental note to have her foundation send an anonymous donation to the program. She'd also agreed to return the following Saturday, a commitment that surprised her as much as it seemed to please Daniel. "Mom, can Mia come over sometime?" Lily asked as they drove home, her voice brimming with an excitement Elaine hadn't heard in ages. "Of course," Elaine replied, glancing at her daughter in the rearview mirror. "I'd like that." As weeks passed, Saturdays at the community center became the highlight of Elaine's week. She found herself looking forward to the simple pleasure of helping children create art, of watching Lily bloom in this unpretentious environment. And though she was reluctant to admit it, of spending time with Daniel, there was something refreshingly honest about him. He didn't seem impressed by her wealth or intimidated by her success. He treated her like any other parent volunteer, teasing her when she was too perfectionist about the art projects, challenging her when she tried to solve problems by throwing money at them. One rainy Saturday in April, they found themselves alone in the supply closet, taking inventory for the upcoming summer program. "We're running low on canvases," Daniel noted, making a mark on his clipboard. "And the acrylic paints are almost gone." Elaine made a mental note to order supplies anonymously again. Over the past months, she'd arranged several such donations, careful to keep her identity as the benefactor secret. "I can check with some contacts," she said vaguely. Daniel glanced at her with a knowing smile. "You know, for someone who runs one of the biggest tech companies in the country, you're not great at being sneaky." Elaine froze, a box of colored pencils in her hands. "What do you mean?" "The mysterious donations that always arrive just when we need them most." He leaned against the shelf, his expression gentle. "I did some research after the first one. Not many people could afford to be that generous." Heat rose to Elaine's cheeks. "I didn't want it to be awkward." "Why would it be awkward?" He stepped closer, taking the box from her hands and setting it aside. "It's incredibly kind. I don't want you to think I'm trying to, I don't know, buy your approval or something." Elaine struggled to articulate feelings she barely understood herself. "People often assume I use money to solve problems." Daniel's eyes softened. "Is that what your ex-husband thought?" The question caught her off guard. They'd never discussed her marriage, though Daniel had occasionally shared stories about his late wife, Sarah, a kindergarten teacher who'd battled cancer for 3 years before passing away. "David said I was too focused on the company, that I tried to compensate by buying expensive things for Lily instead of giving her time." Elaine swallowed hard. He wasn't entirely wrong. Daniel was quiet for a moment. "We all make mistakes as parents. The important thing is that you're here now, getting paint on your fancy clothes every Saturday because it makes your daughter happy." Their eyes met, and Elaine felt something shift between them, a current of awareness that had been building gradually over the past months. Daniel was so different from the polished, ambitious men she usually encountered in her world. His hands were calloused from work, his clothes were bought for comfort rather than status, and his small apartment in Brooklyn, which she'd seen when dropping Lily off for playdates with Mia, was cluttered with books and art supplies instead of expensive decor. Yet there was a quiet strength in him, an unwavering dedication to his daughter and his students that Elaine found more impressive than any corporate success. "Daniel, she began, but the closet door swung open, revealing Mia. "Dad, miss. Peterson needs help with the kiln," the girl announced, seemingly unaware of the tension in the small space. Daniel nodded, stepping back. "I'll be right there." As Mia disappeared, he turned to Elaine with a smile that held a promise. "We'll continue this conversation later." Elaine nodded, her heart racing in a way it hadn't in years. Later never came that day, as the program ran over and Elaine had to rush Lily to a dentist appointment. But the following Tuesday, she found herself lingering after dropping Lily at school, making her way to the art classroom where she knew Daniel would be preparing for his first class. He looked up from arranging supplies, his surprise quickly turning to pleasure. "Elaine, this is unexpected." It was the first time he'd used her first name, and the informality sent a small thrill through her. "I had a meeting cancel," she lied smoothly. In reality, she'd rescheduled a board meeting to be here. Daniel wiped his hands on a cloth and approached. "Lucky me." "I was thinking about what you said on Saturday," Elaine began, suddenly nervous. About continuing our conversation, a slow smile spread across his face. I was thinking about that too. Would you like to have dinner sometime? The words rushed out before she could second-guess herself. Just the two of us. Daniel's smile widened, but then faltered slightly. I'd like that, but I should be upfront about something. Elaine's stomach tightened. Here it came the concern about their different worlds, the acknowledgement that a public school teacher with a modest income had no place in the life of a billionaire CEO. I don't have a lot of experience with dating, Daniel continued. After Sarah died, it was just Mia and me. I haven't been ready to let anyone else in until recently. Relief washed over Elaine. I understand. My dating experience post-divorce consists of exactly 3 awkward setups by well-meaning friends, all of which ended before dessert. She smiled. We can take it slow. Slow sounds good, Daniel agreed. Though I should warn you, my idea of a fancy restaurant is the Italian place down the street from my apartment where they know my name. Elaine laughed. That sounds perfect, actually. Their first date was at that very Italian restaurant, a small family-owned place with checkered tablecloths and candles stuck in Chianti bottles. The food was simple but delicious, and Daniel was clearly a regular, greeted warmly by the owners. So tell me something about Elaine O'Connor that isn't in the Forbes profile, Daniel said as they lingered over tiramisu. Elaine considered the question. I never meant to become a billionaire, she admitted. I just wanted to create something useful. The app that started it all home smart, I designed it because I was tired of forgetting to turn off my apartment lights when I left for class. From humble beginnings, Daniel smiled. What would you be doing if it hadn't taken off? Teaching, probably, Elaine said, surprising herself with the answer. Computer science. I was a TA in grad school and loved it. You'd be a good teacher, Daniel said thoughtfully. You have patience. I've seen it with the kids at the center. The conversation flowed easily between them, moving from careers to childhood memories, favorite books to embarrassing stories about their daughters. By the end of the evening, as they walked along the Brooklyn promenade under a star-filled sky, Elaine felt a sense of ease she hadn't experienced in years. Can I ask you something personal? Daniel said as they paused to look at the Manhattan skyline glittering across the water. Of course. Are you happy? With your life, I mean. The question caught her off guard. When was the last time anyone had asked her that? People usually assumed that with her wealth and success, happiness was a given. Parts of it, she answered honestly. I'm proud of what I've built. I love that my work makes people's lives easier, but lately, she paused, searching for the right words. Lately, I've been wondering if I've missed something important along the way. Daniel nodded, his eyes reflecting the city lights. After Sarah died, I kept thinking I needed to make some grand gesture to honor her memory, move to a new city, change careers, something dramatic. But in the end, it was the small things that helped Mia and me heal, making pancakes on Sunday mornings, finding a new park to explore, creating art together. He turned to face her, his expression earnest. You have an extraordinary life, Elaine, but maybe the ordinary moments matter just as much. On impulse, Elaine reached for his hand. His fingers were warm as they entwined with hers. I'm starting to realize that, she said softly. Their goodnight kiss was gentle, tentative, a question rather than a declaration. As Daniel's lips met hers, Elaine felt something unlock inside her chest, a door opening to a room she'd kept closed for too long. Over the next few months, their relationship deepened. They navigated their different schedules and responsibilities, finding moments to connect between Elaine's business trips and Daniel's teaching commitments. They were careful to keep things casual around their daughters at first, but it soon became clear that both girls had figured out that something was happening between their parents. Are you and Mr. James dating? Lily asked one evening as Elaine tucked her into bed. Elaine sat on the edge of the mattress, choosing her words carefully. We've been spending time together, yes. Would that be okay with you? Lily considered this, her young face serious. Mia says her dad smiles a lot more now, and you do too, she paused. I like it when you smile, Mom. Tears pricked at Elaine's eyes. I like it too, sweetheart. The first challenge to their relationship came in June, when Elaine was invited to speak at a tech conference in Tokyo. Usually, such trips were routine. Her assistant would arrange everything, and Lily would stay with the nanny. But this time, Elaine found herself reluctant to go, to be away from Daniel and the simple pleasures they'd been sharing. "It's only a week," Daniel reassured her when she expressed her concerns. "We'll still be here when you get back." But the conference coincided with the end-of-year showcase at the community center, where both Lily and Mia were displaying their artwork. The thought of missing it made Elaine's chest ache. The night before her scheduled departure, she sat in her home office, staring at her ticket confirmation. Her assistant had arranged everything: the first-class flight, the luxury hotel suite, the car service. All she had to do was show up. Instead, she picked up her phone and called the conference organizers. "I'm sorry, but I won't be able to attend in person," she told them. "I'd be happy to arrange a video keynote instead." The next evening, Elaine stood proudly beside Daniel as their daughters unveiled their collaborative sculpture, a beautiful piece depicting two trees with intertwined branches. "The trees are like our families," Mia explained to the attendees. "Growing together but still being themselves." Elaine felt Daniel's hand slip into hers, squeezing gently. "Thank you for being here," he whispered. "There's nowhere else I'd rather be," she replied, and meant it. As summer progressed, they spent weekends at the beach, Daniel teaching Elaine to surf with limited success, and Elaine introducing him to the pleasures of five-star resorts, which he enjoyed more than he expected. The girls became inseparable, their different backgrounds seeming irrelevant in the face of their shared love of art and adventure. In July, Daniel and Mia joined Elaine and Lily on a trip to Elaine's beach house in the Hamptons, a sprawling property that had always felt too big and empty before. With Daniel and Mia there, the house came alive with laughter and creativity. They set up an impromptu art studio on the deck overlooking the ocean, spent long days on the private beach, and enjoyed simple meals together that tasted better than any gourmet restaurant. One evening, as they watched the sunset from the deck, the girls having retreated inside to watch a movie, Daniel turned to Elaine with an unusually serious expression. "What's on your mind?" she asked, setting down her wine glass. "I've been offered a position," he said. "Head of the Fine Arts Department at Westfield. The current chair is retiring." "Daniel, that's wonderful," Elaine exclaimed. "You'd be perfect for it." He nodded, but his expression remained troubled. "It's a great opportunity. Better pay, more resources for the students, more stability for Mia and me." "Why do I sense there's a but coming?" Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'd have to cut back on the community center program, maybe even give it up eventually." Elaine understood immediately. The program wasn't just a job to Daniel, it was his passion, a living memorial to his wife, and a vital resource for children who had few other opportunities for creative expression. "What if you didn't have to choose?" she said slowly, an idea forming. "What do you mean?" Elaine turned to face him fully. "The O'Connor Foundation funds educational initiatives. What if we established the program as a formal nonprofit, hired a full-time director to handle the day-to-day operations, but you'd still oversee the curriculum and teach when you can?" Daniel stared at her, his expression a mixture of hope and wariness. "You do that, in a heartbeat," Elaine said honestly, "but only if it's what you want. I'm not trying to solve your problem with money, Daniel. I'm offering a partnership." He was quiet for a long moment, his eyes searching hers. Then, slowly, he smiled. "A partnership sounds good, but I'd want to be involved in every step: the setup, the fundraising, everything. It can't just be your project." "I wouldn't have it any other way," Elaine assured him. That night, after the girls were asleep, Daniel and Elaine made love for the first time, their connection deepening as they explored each other with tender curiosity. Afterward, as they lay tangled in the sheets, the sound of the ocean drifting through the open windows, Elaine felt a profound sense of rightness, as if everything in her life had been leading to this moment. "I love you," Daniel whispered against her hair. "I wasn't looking for this for you, but now I can't imagine my life without you in it." Elaine looked up at him. This man who had taught her to see beyond balance sheets and board meetings, who had shown her that success could be measured in moments of joy rather than dollars. "I love you too," she said. "More than I thought possible." The summer passed in a blur of happiness, and as September approached, they faced another decision. The girls would be starting a new school year, Mia now at Westfield with Daniel, and their lives were increasingly intertwined. "Move in with us," Elaine suggested one evening as they sat in Daniel's modest apartment, the girls working on a school project in Mia's room. "There's plenty of space, and it would make everything easier." Daniel looked around at his home, the cozy living room with bookshelves he'd built himself, the kitchen where he and Mia had shared thousands of meals, the walls covered with photographs of their life with Sarah. "I don't know," he said honestly. "This place holds a lot of memories." Elaine reached for his hand. "I understand, it was just an idea." But the next day Daniel surprised her. "What would you think about finding a new place?" he asked. "Not your penthouse or my apartment, but somewhere that could be ours. Something with a yard for the girls and space for a proper art studio." The joy that flooded through Elaine took her breath away. "I think that sounds perfect." By Christmas, they had found their home a brownstone in Brooklyn with high ceilings, large windows that flooded the space with light, and a small garden where Lily immediately began planning a flower bed. It wasn't as luxurious as Elaine's penthouse, but it felt warmer, more lived in from the moment they began moving their combined possessions. The Art Haven Foundation, the nonprofit they established to secure the future of Daniel's community program, was thriving, with new locations opening in underserved neighborhoods throughout the city. Daniel had accepted the position at Westfield, but continued teaching weekend workshops at the centers, often with Elaine and the girls helping out. On Christmas Eve, as they sat before the fireplace in their new home, the girls asleep upstairs after an evening of holiday traditions blended from both families, Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I had a whole speech planned," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "about how you came into our lives and changed everything. About how you taught me that it's possible to love deeply a second time, differently but just as truly. About how Mia and I can't imagine our future without you and Lily in it." He opened the box, revealing a ring with a simple but elegant diamond. "But looking at you now, all I can think to say is, Elaine O'Connor, will you marry me?" Tears spilled down Elaine's cheeks as she looked at this man who had taught her what truly mattered in life, not the wealth she'd accumulated or the empire she'd built, but the connections she'd made, the love she'd given and received. "Yes," she whispered, extending her trembling hand. "Yes, Daniel, 1,000 times yes." As he slid the ring onto her finger, Elaine thought about the unlikely path that had led them here, a billionaire and a teacher, brought together by their daughters, finding in each other exactly what they hadn't realized they were missing. The wedding took place the following spring, a small ceremony in the garden of their brownstone. Lily and Mia served as their only attendants, beaming with pride as their parents exchanged vows beneath an arch of flowers. "I never expected you," Daniel said, his voice carrying clearly to their gathered friends and family. "I thought my heart had learned all it could about love when I lost Sarah, but you showed me that the heart is more resilient than we give it credit for. That it can heal and expand and love again, differently but just as deeply." Elaine squeezed his hands, her own vows rising from her heart. "You taught me that true wealth isn't measured in dollars or achievements. It's found in Saturday mornings making pancakes with our girls. In paint-stained clothes and hands dirty from gardening, in the quiet moments before sleep when we share our days." She blinked back tears. "Thank you for teaching my heart how to love again." As they sealed their vows with a kiss, cheered on by their daughters and surrounded by the life they'd built together, Elaine knew that this was her greatest success story, not the company she'd founded or the fortune she'd amassed, but the family they had created, blending their separate paths into one shared journey. Later that evening, as they danced under strings of fairy lights in their garden, Daniel pulled her close and whispered, "Did you ever imagine, that first day in my classroom, that we'd end up here?" Elaine shook her head, laughing softly. "Never, but now I can't imagine being anywhere else." And as the music played and their daughters danced nearby, Elaine knew it was true. All the accolades and achievements of her business life paled in comparison to this simple, profound joy. Loving and being loved, creating a family from the broken pieces of their past lives, and discovering that sometimes the most valuable lessons come from unexpected teachers.